Hey guys, it's Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching. I wanted to do a trade review. I haven't done one in a while for ES, NQ, and CL and kind of show what went right, what went wrong, and where I want to improve for tomorrow. So, number one, first and foremost, I have been struggling with my longs. Why? Because we're not getting the rotations down. C, I want to improve my performance in a straight up market, right? So I need to look at what's working right now and how I can improve those long positions. But the other side of that coin is we actually got a good long setup at the end of the day, which gives me a good example and a good opportunity to show what I am actually looking for on a long side setup that I am totally willing to take and very confident will end up with a high odd that I actually know has a high odds win rate, right? So number one, let's start from the top and work our way down to the bottom. First, we'll start with the 5-minute charts, and we're going to look at the zones on CL to begin with. Y'all see me set up these charts live. If you look at the if you are a subscriber to the YouTube channel, you'll see I was on live this morning setting up these charts. This is a poorly auctioned area from prior day's high, right, all the way up through and into this little blue line right here. And as I said, it could either reject quite easily or trade through it. And you can see in the overnight session, we rejected out of that area. In the US session, we traded straight up through it. We used the backside test of that, just like they used it in the European session as a reversal point. They used the backside test of that location as a support resistance zone for counter rotation. And then once we made a 50-60 back over here, they finally rolled down. One of the things that people ask is, what are the zones that are most important and how do I know if they work or not? And before I do that, I forgot one thing. So I'm going to throw this up really quick. I have to say past performance is not indicative of future results. And I do lose money on occasion. I am trading my game plan and doing the best I can to execute my trade plan relative to my risk. And I'm hoping sharing that trade plan with you will make you a better trader. I've been doing this for 20 years. I haven't been in a whole lot of straight up markets in that 20 years, but God knows this is a straight up market and the short has been hard. I had one short today in NQ and I was promptly stopped out, and I'm okay with the stop, right? I know ahead of time if I'm taking that short. However, I do not encourage anyone to follow me blindly. I do encourage everyone to learn what you can from me, take what you like, and leave the rest, right? And most importantly, trade to your risk and make sure that you can absorb losses. Day trading definitely involves losses, right? It involves trying to get used to markets that you otherwise wouldn't be necessarily used to. And markets change, sometimes dramatically, as we've seen from October, November, December into January, February, March. So getting back to the point, the white zone is the strongest zone I can come up with. When I look at the profile charts, this is the zone where I think there will be a rejection. I'm very willing in most cases, except for the most extreme of up markets, to take a short in this location. The yellow zones are my second strongest location. I'm also pretty willing to take a trade in that area, not right at pit open necessarily. So what you'll see is we opened up, pushed right into the yellow zone, right? So just follow me step by step on what that looked like, okay? Pushed up right into the yellow zone, rejected, rotated down, unable to get to the blue area was yesterday's volume point of control and the TPO point of control. Got above the yellow zone, quick backside test, push. We pushed through the poorly auctioned area, right? Meaning there was very little volume and very little time spent in this area last time we were in here. Then we traded right up to the white zone. We tested the white zone several times, rejected, rotated back down to the top of the poorly auctioned area, right? And then we traded in. And what you will see, right, one of the rules of thumb, and I listed this out if you'll go look at that video that I did prior, is how will we know if the rally is failing, right? And the easiest way to look at that on any of these markets, right, is you could take it either from the open swing low, which would have been right here, to right here. And you'll notice, right, when we came back to the 50 retrace, found support, and they pushed back up, and we pretty much consolidated there right into the close, right? So if you had found a short from this location, the 50-60 back was your logical target where you should have taken a scale. And unless, I would still stand by that point, unless we get behind this 50-60 retrace overnight and hold underneath, buyers are still in absolute control on CL, and there's no indication other than for a quick trade that the short side is easier than the long side. As a matter of fact, the presses to the long side are definitely working better. So what this all translated into is, let me give you a 7-range chart, and this has my algo working on it, right? So what that worked out to is from 8 a.m. what you'll see is what I'm trying to do is either get above my last seller, which you see we opened up, we rolled to the downside, we had the arrow up, which is gives me an indication a lot of energy was expanded in this move, right? Got above my last energy expansion to the downside, right? So arrow up, arrow down, so arrow up, and I had a buy speed bar here, which means they simply flipped from the bid to the ask very quickly on this bar. Okay, they being the traders, they swept the bid, then they swept the ask, right? And then once we shifted above it, and if you look at this area, right, that shift down, sweep the ask, right? Another sweep of the ask. That's what the blue and the red bars are indicative of. And then the shift, right, which is the arrow up, and that launches us to the upside. No one was confused about that. I pointed out this morning that was probably your long when I was live in the room, and it launched. I regret not having been long in that particular area. On the 5 range, it actually set up around 840 again. Again, you'll see once we came up, pay no attention to these moving averages. They're just kind of a guidepost for me. And what you will see is once I'm at this point on CL, right? So remember, I'm always comparing this to my 5-minute chart, right? So my 5-minute chart is over here to the left. And I'm looking at it going, okay, we were unable to test yesterday's point control, both from the TPO and the volume profile. Next, I knew this was an area that could be quite slippery. I wasn't interested in finding a trade, nor did a trade for the short side set up to all the way up here, right? And where I was really interested in and said in the video, right, the highest odds location is up into 66.24. So when we come up to the 66.24, so you'll see we came up, we consolidated sideways, right? This was a short sell combo, which I did not take, right? It pushed down, they consolidated. You can see the size of the delta. This is represents a delta push. You can see the size of this delta push was actually the biggest push down. And you can see from that push up, right, you're always measuring to see how much strength they have on the pushback, right? That's a pretty substantial delta push down, and it couldn't make it to the 50-60 retrace. Buyers are strong, right? And then when we pushed up again, right? So when you're looking and you push to new highs, I'm always looking at how big is the delta push and how strong is it? And then where do we have to trap back into or get underneath? So number one, this is my biggest delta wave right here. And I said in the morning, in order to roll lower, at this point, you're going to have to get below this 65.70, 65.60 location, which never happened, right? That's what you needed to release to the downside. It would get you underneath the biggest wave of the day. Next, pushing over. And by the way, this is simply RTH. If we kick it over to the 24-hour, just so everyone can see what that looks like, it'll be up in just a second. And I feel like CL is the best day trading market right now, right? So many people are like, wait a minute, ES is going straight up. The problem is all the trades are kicking in first thing in the morning before 9 o'clock. And I usually skip the first 30 minutes. It's kept me safe for a long, long time. It's hurting me at the moment, but I don't want to switch off on it, right? So if you look, even prior to that, this push is still by cumulative delta, the biggest delta push up, and it pushes to a new high, and it pushes us up over the European session. And even when they attempt to trap back in, there's almost no push. There's no 50 retrace, right? So you have to keep all these pieces plugged in together. Then what's the most interesting about what occurred at the very high was, and again, these reviews are mostly geared towards members in the room and guys that I'm coaching one-on-one. What you'll see is we got a shift down. See how we got to the top, and we got this is a fractal followed by an algo triggers one of my short sell signals, but not by itself, right? And what I want to get underneath here in order to make this short work, or what I have to be able to get underneath, is the last green arrow up. And what you'll see is that was a long way away, right? That's that bar. And the reason why I have to get underneath it is because usually what's going to happen is they're going to come back and they're going to respond back up against it, right? So again, I'm paying attention to two things. Number one, what's my larger 50-60 retrace here? Because I know I have to get behind the 62 retrace to have any kind of substantial downside. That's the high. This is a low odds short sell indication, right? But now if you look over here, see this, this is a fractal with a pink bar, which means the combinations is very important. Usually this triggers an excellent long. I can't go through and explain the whole algo, but guys in the room, you know what I'm talking about. And I know once I get below this bar right here, there's a very good chance of us rolling to the downside. And what would be the target? the 50-60 retrace, right? So take it step by step. And this is what I'm doing when I'm struggling as a trader, right? I'm a little hesitant to take shorts because the market's so strong. And at the same time, I'm having a hard time taking the longs. So all I'm trying to do by my trade review for my own exercise, right? I'm looking at this and going, okay, number one, could have I gotten long? I'm not trading till 9 o'clock, which means I've missed this entire roll to the upside. So I'm going to ask myself a few questions. A, do I want to trade before 9 o'clock? Most of the time, the answer is no, right? B, right? What were my other trading opportunities, and were they clear? Well, if you'll look, this combination of bars right here, that I'm pointing to right over here, this is actually a pretty strong combination of bars. But what don't we have? We don't have any arrow up anywhere through here. So there's no one who just made a dramatic push in energy, right? Number two, this is the top right over here of my strongest delta wave up, right there at 836. I've got to get back into this wave to have any chance of rolling lower. And you'll see the top of that wave was retested, and they came back in and pushed back up. Again, I'm looking at all these pieces in real time, and that made the short less desirable. Now we extend one more time. This time we have an even stronger combination. So see this part right here? That's a pretty strong short indication if you've had a final push up, a final exertion of energy is the best way to describe that, right? So on the final exertion, so what did that bring? So see this, we have this arrow up right here. Again, this is on the 7 range. Pink bar. This is a very strong combination of bars. It usually means a lot of energy has been expanded to the upside. And if you'll see this, see how they attempted, this is a weak attempt at a short. It's actually a weak short. But we pushed above and closed above what would normally be a weak short sell signal. Now, what should have happened here, you've always heard everyone say, if you don't get what you expect the opposite, right, when you're thinking through the market. So I knew when we got this right here, even though I was frustrated, right, and I did not, by the way, capture this short. But looking back at it, would I want to take the trade again? So what happened here is they tried to shove very hard over here. They came right back in. They tried to shove very hard over here, right? Then we get a speed bar down. We get a fractal. And we get a purple bar. All these codes mean something to me in terms of expansion of energy, right? And I know that if I shift underneath these two bars, which I did right here, right, that I have a very good chance of what? Making it back to my 50-60 retrace. So how did that behave? After we push down, right, notice that this is the last shove down. So what do we need in order to push back up? We're looking for an expansion of energy to the downside to trap sellers. So we have fuel to push to the upside. So if you look, right, so if we look at it from this point, now we go, they tried really hard to push up. I'm not going to go through and explain these, but basically this should have gone, is what I'm saying. They should have been able to get another extension off of this, except, right, so that's all intraday stuff. What are we running into? We're running into 66.60, which we know from the day time frame is a strong resistance area, right? And you see they're expanding a boatload of energy trying to get in here. So guys, why is this important? Because this is where our P&L is sitting if you're looking for the short side. And then how did the long side set up? Well, we already know that. It shoved down and failed to make it into what should have been a pretty easy test of yesterday's points and controls, right? So we came down, we shifted, we shoved up. This should have gone, and then we got behind this purple bar, got us behind this pink bar. See how they matched up, right? And then the last piece here is, what did we need to get underneath? We needed to get underneath this bar right here. That was a minimum requirement, right? That was a minimum requirement for getting a big rollover, right? Otherwise, all we were going to do is come back and tag that 50 and bounce right off of it. So look how they set this whole thing up. Here's our line, right? That's what we had to get underneath. So first thing you'll notice off to the right, this is the 50-60 retrace, right, where that buy bar is coming in, right, where the algo's kicking in information. B, this is the biggest push down right here, or equal to, right? Pretty damn big push, and they made progress on it. That's good, right? They're attempting to get underneath this. So what am I looking for underneath this area, right? Well, what I really want to do is, this is less important to me. What I really am looking to do is get these guys trapped over here to the left, right? So what I want is one of these red shoves to the downside, one of these bars to shove to the downside, and I want that shove to come underneath this wave. Why? I'm going to show you why. Okay. So if I go back just a little bit in time, right, I'll show you a similar short setup. Okay, so this took place in the overnight in Asia. I don't trade Asia right now because I'm not getting up at that time. But if you look, right, we had all the qualities we were looking for. So if you look when we originally pushed up into the early hours right before London Open, right, we pushed up, but you'll see this bar right here. See that pink bar? Normally I know I'm going to get follow through on that pink bar, just like this, right? Particularly if we're above or below a key location. So they shove up, and then you'll see I get a mediocre short sell signal, right, which I would not have taken. There's not enough information because what I want to do, right now I want to get behind this guy if I'm trading at this time frame, right? So then what you'll see is they never get a point of control or a negative bar underneath here. So I can draw a line underneath that. And then we come back up. But now I've got more interesting information at this point. I get a shove up, mediocre long signal, right? I get a sell signal all by itself. Again, that's mediocre when it's all by itself. Then we push above, right, one more time, and we try to break. Now I get a speed bar down and a shift down. It's still a mediocre signal, but look how this changes dramatically in two areas, right? Number one, this bar right here, talking about the top, is the first shift lower where I'm getting a sell signal that comes underneath my last buy signal. So look at the difference in the quality of the roll down, right? Here you get a shift down and a shift down, and they come all the way back up against it, right? See that right there? So, and the reason why is no one's really trapped here. You got to get behind this guy over here. But now you've gotten two shifts up in this location, and the first key was to get underneath a shift right there. Okay. Number two is to get, and you never got a strong short signal on this, by the way. We just never got it, right? And that probably goes to the time of the day that it's occurring. So if you look, they come back in, and then we get a buy with a speed bar. Now, this is important. Just like if we had a sell with a speed bar, it often leads to big rolls to the downside, particularly if you can get an arrow up or down following it, right? So in this particular case, when I get this signal, if we get underneath it, see I get that buy, I got the exact opposite of what I would look for here. I get this arrow shoved down. Now, why is this important? Because it's now gotten me underneath. This bar has now gotten me underneath my last big push to the upside. It's gotten me underneath this pink bar, which is a large expansion of energy and an attempted push to the upside. And you're going to see this theme repeat all the way through. Now I'm trapped underneath, right? And I can push and get a beautiful extension down, and you get paid, assuming you're trading this time of the day, right? So next, look how it worked in the opposite frame. Look how big that delta wave is down. If you pull that in, you'll see that was the biggest push down, right, in days. Look how big that was. It was pretty giant. You had to go all the way back to 411 right over here to find an equivalent wave down, right? So if you measure this wave, right, so if we're sitting there trading, we're going to do the opposite or look for the opposite if we're trading in this area. So number one thing I'm going to do is go, hey, this is the biggest push down. This wave is the biggest push to the downside, right? If I get a close above this right here, right, all these people, meaning everyone who sold in here, will be trapped and be forced to come in. Now, roll that all the way over here, and you have the same concept right here. All these people are trapped. If we get underneath them, they're forced to come out. That's what I'm generally looking for in all markets. Where are buyers trapped? Where are sellers trapped? And I want to catch it because that's where the bulk of the move is going to come from, right? So if we look over here, right, now this helps us understand what we're looking for, right? So if you look, we came down, right? Notice, what do I want? This is my last shift to the downside. So I actually needed these shifts over here, these down arrows, to be indicative, right? To be indicative that I was going to trap somebody. And if you'll notice, all the way down, notice all of these arrows down, we never can get behind them until right here. And that's matched with an arrow up. This arrow up isn't getting behind anyone who is attempting to sell to the downside. So now look, now I've got a speed bar, two speed bars, an algo buy in addition, right? So this is a powerful bar. First shift up, and even though it was 822, I would have never been able to take that trade. I wasn't prepared to take the trade at that point, but it set up a perfect long to the long side. If you're not taking that trade in the room, guys, and you see that on the screen, we need to adjust your trade plan because that's a fantastic long. It conflicts with not trading in the first hour, but I may just need to shift that right now until it proves that it's not working because most of the big trades are picking up in the first 30 to 45 minutes, we're getting some pretty big trades, and I'm simply passing on because they're taking place, and then I'm left with being way out of position and not getting a market that's rotating down, right? So then you follow that bouncing ball all the way through. So the next thing that's going to happen here, see that big push down right there between 848 and 903, right? If we get above this, so see how this was a purple bar, 3 different algos are triggering here. 4, 1, the sell bar, the red arrow down, and the purple bar. There's a lot of energy trying to shove down there, and it's reflected in the delta wave down here, right? And I know one thing about that wave, or should know one thing about that wave. If we close above it, they're going to short squeeze again. And sure enough, you get a shift up, right? So here's another speed bar. No buy, but there's a shift up, and then you get to shift up again, the arrow up above this entire wave, and they short squeeze it again. I didn't take this trade, and I should have. That was at 9:30 in the morning, and I've got to go back, and I will do this tonight. I've got to lay through, and the way I do it, so I learn, is I write out the trades by hand, so I know exactly what I want to take the following day. And like I said, right now I'm struggling, and that's part of trading, right? Everyone looks at it and goes, oh, it's so easy. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've kind of been caught sideways, so I got to figure out in my own head how I'm going to improve my own trade setups so that I can get to where I want to be in terms of, I'm not losing money, but I'm not making anywhere near the money I feel I should be making. And actually, today's Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday, I've kind of sucked, quite frankly. I just don't feel like I did a good job. The only thing I did really well is I surrendered on the shorts really quickly on ES and NQ, and cut trade size on the short side. And I did all the things that you're supposed to do when you're struggling, right? I didn't press. I'm not fighting it, but I'm not finding my long entries either, and that's a problem. So I've got to improve on that. So then if you look, when we came around, shift above, I should have been long on this bar. I could have simply used a stop right here behind this bar. This is a pretty tight stop if you look in ticks. This is a long at 66.30 and a stop about 66.16. It's about $150 a contract, and the exchange for that, right? Let's say you're long 66.31, and it pushed all the way up to 66.55. That's 20 ticks. It's better than a 1-to-1 RR, right? Now remember, what we're looking for is to get underneath key areas. So this becomes, at least in the series of pushes to the upside, this becomes our last significant push up, and we've already covered that. There's our push up. That should have worked. This triggers that short. That's a beautiful combo of algo bars there, right there, guys. That buy speed bar and then this shift underneath on a purple bar. It's giving us a lot of information about expansion of energy, and that tells us we were about to get this roll down. We then get a 50-60 retrace, and I'll say the same thing right here. I should have been willing to short there. I hesitated, and I will tell you who got that. Daniel nailed that trade. He was short at 66.49, I believe. And he simply got a beautiful rotation to the downside. And then what he ran into, Daniel, I'm going to assume you're going to watch this trade review. And Daniel, what you slammed into, brother, because otherwise you had it perfect, was from the open, swing low, U.S. session, to the swing high, U.S. session, is you slammed into the 50-60. And you have to assume, look how much delta was put on there. And then, okay, so what really killed the trade for you was although obviously, we got past 11:30, and as I said at the end of the day in the preview, they've just been pushing up at the end of the day. But not only that, but you got the speed bar right into the 50-60. You got a big expansion of delta, and I got to tell you, overnight, you get above this guy right here. You put a line right there. You get above 66.36. If they can get above it, you can see they rejected right off of it, right into the 130 close. You should be able to push pretty hard to the upside, right? So that describes CL for the day. I wasn't down on CL. I just didn't point out a trade in the rim there that I executed very well. The algo worked great. I didn't do a good job of executing the algo. And a lot of that is the frustration of NQ bleeding over into my CL trading. And my CL trading has actually been quite profitable. It's most profitable over the last 3 weeks by miles. And I think I just need to shift my focus for a little while into the CL neighborhood because the straight up on NQ and ES is bugging the shit out of me. Half of it is I haven't traded it very well. I haven't captured the upside. And the other half of the formula, or the other half of that formula, is not only is that pushing to the upside, but the flip side of it is I'm not on the few small shorts I've taken stops in the last 2 or 3 days, and that's not cool either. So that's bleeding over. Let's go look at ES and NQ really quick. ES wasn't a problem for me. I figured it could push all day. Here's the 5 minutes and the zones, right? And if you'll look, we'll narrow those in, expand that up. So it's been doing the same thing every day, which is opening up. Here's the open. It's open, drive higher. We're above prior day's high, consolidating prior day's value area. Failure to test the point of control, pushing out makes complete sense on this. This did not bother me one bit. I didn't even look for a short here. What I wanted, right? What I wanted to do, and I want to show very specifically, what I wanted was earlier in the day, is I wanted it to pull back like this, right? So I could get the long. If you look, okay, so from an opening standpoint, we never made it back to the 50-60. You'll see that right here. This is pretty much the open print. And we never got back to the 50 retrace. So if you remember in the market preview, I said the first sign that there isn't a trend day up is we'll make it back to the 50 retrace, right? That still stands. You got to get past that to have any kind of down rotation. We didn't get there. What they used here, if you open this up, this was the last little push down. It's almost a joke, but that's it, right? And if you measure from here to here, we came back into the 50-60 retrace right in here, and that's where they got the responsive buyers. And it was right at the end of the day. You'll see that was the last 30 minutes. But it actually set up quite nicely from I guess we're doing ES instead of NQ. It actually set up quite nicely from an algo standpoint. So if you look, we pushed, we pushed, we pushed. So remember, in order for a short to work, I've got to get behind. These arrows are pretty important to me. I've got to get underneath these, right? We didn't get the arrows. We did get a fractal speed bar and a pink bar, no shift up, right? But that's still pretty good because once you got underneath this bar ended up being your short entry right here, that 29.36, but your stop would have been all the way over here at 29.40, right? The problem with ES and shorting it right now is that it just hasn't given any reasonable rotations to the downside. The only thing you could have done for a short here, getting this set up, would have been to short. Again, you'll see the combo. Pink bar followed by a shift down with a purple bar off of this combo of bars is very powerful. And I'm pretty sure I pointed that out in the room real time. It was right before I went to lunch. That's a very powerful combo of bars. The challenge here is you just didn't have a shift up. You'll see over here when they finally they didn't give the high, you didn't get this pink bar, but if you could have gotten that right over here with a shift down, that's what you would have been looking for the push lower. It just didn't give it. The algo is measuring energy. It didn't fire. If you had taken this and you were aggressive, again, I'm not willing to short ES right now. It just hasn't shown any ability to rotate down. The best trade there was to come off the 50-60, right? And you'll see it did it twice. Here's the first, right? 50-60 back underneath this purple bar. Backside tested that purple bar, rotated down. That was from 37 to 34. That's all it was worth, was 3 points, right? Came back up again, rejected out of the same area. This time you have a shift up. We closed underneath the shift up on this bar, and that garnered you a whole amazing 2 points. And then you'll see as soon as we closed above, they really pushed into the close. And I don't know where we're trading right now, but I get the feeling we went out higher than that. Let me look where we are trading. We went out 29.37, right where it says, and a quarter. Short just wasn't a real viable trade here today. So, and I had no conflict with that. That was fine. I'm not even trying to short it. It made sense that it pushed up. NQ's at all-time highs. I expect ES will eventually try to struggle on up there and break its highs as well, right? So if you look higher, right, this is, at least for right now, that 29.48, 29.50 and a quarter, that's my upside target. And that gives, really, if you look from 37, right, to 50, that's 13 points. It's totally achievable. And my guess is we're going to attempt to hit that location. And then right behind it is, I believe that is the all-time high at 29.56. So lastly, what am I looking for? So I'm saving the best for last, NQ. What did I want today? What was the trade I was really looking for that I didn't get till all the way at the end of the day? And I'm hoping that that will open up through the course of the week. I'm hoping the ranges will open up and the rotation, counter rotation will open up, right? And I want to show y'all what that is. And that is on NQ. So here's NQ's chart. I can find the levels for it. There it is. And I erased the levels, but I didn't erase them from over here. Did I? Wow, no, I did not. Okay, so there's our levels. So number one, you'll see this is at all-time highs right here. There are no zones. There's no profile up here to draw a zone on. You basically use Fibonacci extensions or measuring the day's range to look for what exhaustion patterns to look for if you're going to short at new all-time highs, or you wait for the chart to create location and get underneath value areas to shorten this area. There will be no zones higher than this. So if tomorrow morning we're trading at 76.40 above 76.41, I can tell you there won't be a zone up here other than to say 100 to 150 up. Look for exhaustion patterns, right? So number two, if we look at the 5-minute chart, what chart number is this? This is chart number 4. Let's pull this down and bring up the 5-minute chart. Chart settings, advanced settings, 4, okay. And what you will see is, okay, so this morning, right, clearly open drive higher, above prior day's high, failure to test the prior day's pointing control, CPO, it's that little blue area, right, considered generally a weak or an undesirable place to trade. Push, failure to get any kind of 50-60 back, right? This was it at the end of the day where they just kind of, they finally trapped some people on top and rolled them down temporarily, right? So all of this is bullish, right? The only place I attempted a short today was actually right somewhere right in here. I was promptly stopped and I didn't short again, luckily, right? I didn't go off the rails. I didn't try to fight it. I didn't look for anywhere where I could short above. I just said, forget it. It's not worth it. You just don't want to short a market that's going straight up. What I do want to find is a long. So what does that look like when you're at new all-time highs and we don't have a clear setup, right? So if you go to, again, if we shift gears here, right? So number one, at the end of the day, there we go. So look at what we did have. We didn't get a strong long rotation. However, see right here at the bottom, this is the last push down. That push, right? So this is measuring it in 3 ranges, meaning 3 points, right? 12 ticks. This is the last delta push down. I can draw a line across that. So the one thing I know, right, just like I'm looking for shorts and to trap the last buyers, I'm looking for sellers and to trap the last sellers for longs. That's the component I've been missing for the last couple of weeks, right? If I come in, I know if I get above this point, and what you'll notice here, right, unlike this time where we roll down, see how there's no push, there's no green arrows up over here, right? And what I want is I want to get behind a green arrow up. So this roll down here means nothing to me, right? It's a strong set of bars, but it means literally nothing to me because I know this is what I have to get behind. And by the time I get behind this guy, my stop's going to be ridiculous. I'm not going to even look for it, right? We actually got behind here, and there's not, unless there's a shift down and a structure that I can trade off of, I'm not going to short over here, right? If you look, we then get a shove up and a shift down, right? But if you look, it was this double arrow actually has information in it for me. But if you will look, importantly, I want these shifts to come with either a red bar or purple bar or some combination of pink up, purple down. They all have information about the energy that's being released. And I just don't have that here. So there was right over New York lunch, chop time. No one was confused about what to do here. This was pretty straightforward. We were going to push higher, right? But now if you look right on top, right, I don't get a short setup, but I finally get a shove up and I've closed underneath, and you'll notice on this roll down, I don't get any red arrows down, and that's all right, because now as we're pushing down, the first thing I'm going to notice is I'm going to go, hey, this is the first rotation down. This is the counter rotation, right? No buy signal there, not confusing. But here's my last shift down and my shift up. Now, what am I missing from this? I'm not getting any high odds setups, but this is where the current environment makes a difference, right? So I don't trade at 14:49. It's 10 minutes to the close. But what we're looking for is to get behind our last wave down, get on top of it like they did right here. You can see they did a quick backside test right here. You can notice there's barely any rotation down, and then they squeeze them right back up. If I can get this set up on NQ to the long side over the next couple of weeks, not just today, right? Because I don't think we're going to flip from a bull market to a bear market, nor am I bearish. All I want, or all I'm looking for, is a beautiful rotation down. So look at the size of that rotation down, right? We go from 76.41 down to 78.16. That's a 30-point rotation. That's a normal NQ rotation. You just simply have been devoid of 30-point rotations down for location, which makes it very difficult, right? Number two, we had a wave down right at the bottom. I know if I get above that, I should be able to short squeeze. Why? I have these guys trapped, right? And it behaved exactly the way I would suspect it would act. So if I was going to do today over again, what would I do? Well, I still wouldn't take this 10 minutes to the close. It's just lunatic hour, right? Especially during earnings, right? But if I look back over here, right, I look back at this time frame, okay, the first thing, and I did note, I said, you get above this wave down, they're going to push, and they did. I just didn't have a long setup in here, but it did what I expected it to do, right? This is where I got stopped, and Bill pointed it out so accurately, right? And Bill's one of my coaching clients. He's a very good trader, right? And you see I put some notes up to the room, but Bill wrote, and this is when he wrote it right here, is at 10:20 a.m., so that lines up exactly with this location, right? Excuse me, right over here. So this is the conversation after I gotten stopped, basically right here. And Bill writes, he goes, no, spring setup at high, biggest wave down, shift up, close above the trap point. And then he said, and I asked him, well, are you saying that was a flip for long? He's like, yeah, you have to flip. And I agree. And I agreed with him 100%. It's still a mediocre setup because of the lack of rotation, but he was correct. They attempted to push down. And once you got above these two arrows down, you had to be long, right? And I wasn't, pure and simple, right? As a matter of fact, I was short and I got stopped out small, very small in size, but still stop out, right? So if I was going to come back, the other way I would have wanted to have this set up is if we look at a 24-hour chart, and I'm going to set this up, even though it irks me to do so. Okay, so I was going to do this over again. What you'll see is pre-market. This is indicating that I'm getting 3 across over here, right? So this is 3 across. I never get a shift up. This is 3 across with a buy with a speed bar at 8:32 a.m. I don't give a shit what happens. I'm not trading at 8:32 a.m. I've had too many stops, too many losses, too many what the F just happened to me to do it over a long 20-year span. Not my cup of tea, right? But I would be willing, right? I would be willing if I get this set up, right, with a shift up. I'm willing to take that. If you look, that never stopped out. And then when it came back against it, right, I would have had a decision to make. And the reason why this is indecision is because we're not getting any rolls to the downside. This is challenging because there's no stretch, but it gets very cleared up off at the end of the day, right? If we could get a push down and I can get a shove at the bottom, and then I can get this bar, had this bar simply been over here with a shift up, that'd have been an easy long. It didn't happen that way, and that's okay. But I know what I'm looking for, at least for the continuation, and I know now that the market's still capable of a 30-point downside rotation for a long. And if you look overnight, right, so what we are looking for, right, as you will see is they push down overnight here. You see they rolled it down into London. They're pressing. See that? See the speed bar or the purple bar up? The only thing you're missing is a shift higher, right? Shift underneath. You'll see the purple bar extended it lower, right? And then they pushed again. Why do I know they pushed again? Well, I don't have any down arrows. I know this purple bar is an expansion of energy, right? And I know if we get above it, right, we're likely to force a short squeeze. And then if you look what happened here, right, I get above my last expansion of energy to the downside. I've got another algo triggering showing 3 across, and then I get the shift to the upside, right? And notice you got 3 across here, but you never get the shift, right? So hold on, let me make sure that statement's correct. 3 across right at London Open, shift, pushes for 5 points. 3 across, shift, but now you have, see over here how you don't have a shove down or anything to trade against? The difference between this setup and this setup is that you are getting this purple bar, you have this shift to the downside. And so if you just draw little lines over that, right? This, like this. And now you get the algo triggering, that's what the blue lines are, indicating again, potential expansion of energy. You get the green arrow up, again, potential expansion of energy. I'm getting above this purple bar, and then I get above, right, this last shove down. That is what's triggering the short squeeze to the upside or new inflow of cash. Right, and then you'll look from that push, right? You go, well, is it going to fail? Or why isn't it just like this? So your measure would have been, if you're trading at 6 in the morning, take this from here to here. And what you had to say is, when it's strong, it doesn't tag the 50 retrace, and it certainly doesn't get behind the 62 retrace. It didn't do that. And then we continued. If you look to the right, they never got behind that, and that's what launched us to the upside. And this wave right here, right, I would highlight this until a bigger wave comes along. We are not short. There's no danger of getting a long liquidation until we get overnight below this area, right? So specifically, your line in the sand is that right there, which is about 77.45 to 77.50. If that's not defended and we get underneath, that would be the first clue for me for looking for bigger pushes to the downside, or get a bigger new push later and have that get created. So guys, long story short, what I am looking for, what I am hunting, the trade I really want, my shorts will be on tiny size until I start to get stretches and start to get them regular. Why? I'm playing defense on the short side. It's not the hot side, right? My longs, I want them to look just like this. So if you need help in identifying, guys, what it looks like, guys in the room, pull up your charts. Look in this time frame. This is exactly what I'm looking for a long. And lastly, try not to stress too badly if you're not putting on large P&L. It's hard when the market goes straight up. Everyone thinks it's great. Certain trading styles fit this. Mostly guys who are trading right at the open and who are good at it. That's not my strong suit, trading the open. I think it's hard. I've gotten my ass kicked many times learning that lesson, and I'm not ready to surrender that part of the day and come over to the dark side. So that's my 2 cents. Hope it helped. I am out of here, guys. If y'all like to join the room or need some help coaching-wise, you're welcome to contact me. My name is Simon. Trade and Perform Coaching. The email address is on the description of the video, but it's TRADENPERFORM, gmail.com. If you're frustrated or you feel like you've missed out, this is a long rodeo. It comes up and down. It's an extraordinary move. And I'm a day trader, which means I need to get good location, and mainly for my style of trading after 9 in the morning, and I'm having a difficult time doing that. The only thing that's setting up is a short side trade, and it's not giving any extension. So I'll put more focus on what I've been green on, which is CL has been consistently green. Everything else has been pretty challenging. So tonight in my journaling, right, I'm going to focus on how to shift over and put more of my focus on CL until I start to see the trades in ES and NQ, and I will purposely work on my visualization techniques to minimize the importance of NQ and ES in my trading regimen so I can lower my frustration levels, right? So anyways, I hope everyone had a great day. Hope no one got hit for any losses. Shorting this is a pretty futile effort. You're really looking for the rotation down to catch the trap, to catch the push to the upside. And almost every one of these green arrows, right, especially if it's the first in the sequence, guys, particularly in the room, they've almost all been profitable. And I will get more aggressive in NQ on those trades, right? Particularly when they get above a push down and I get an arrow up, right? I will be all over that until we get extended, and then I'll still be pretty modest on the short side, right? So I'll miss the first down day, but that's all right. Anyways, have a great day, guys. Have a great night, and let's go kill it tomorrow. See y'all soon. Thanks for joining.